Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Gui Costin, and he is the founder and CEO of Dakota, which is a company that has helped clients raise over $40 billion since 2006. And Gui is recognized as a leader in sales and marketing within the investment service industry. Welcome, Gui.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on. Give me some of your background before you started up Dakota.
So the backstory there is, I think it's pretty funny. My kids are all kind of in college or out of college, and they're all down in Florida with us over Christmas. And they go, "Dad, walk us through like your career before you started Dakota." So I did, and I had 8 different W-2s, and they're like, "Wow, that's 17 years from '89 to 2006. Can you go through that one more time?" I said, "Sure." And we counted 11. And then they said, "Okay, let's just go that one more time." 14 W-2s in 17 years. So I had 14 different jobs in 17 years. That is absolutely not the way to build a sustainable career. And it was mostly in real estate and fundraising, just job to job, 12 to 18 months. I learned a lot. I became very good at it, but I kept restarting. And then when founding Dakota, one of my main ambitions today, 20 years later, has been to create a company where people can come and we can slot them into a long-term career at Dakota and not do what I did, which is bounce around.
Sure. So, what were some of the early challenges that you faced when you were starting up Dakota, and how'd you overcome those?
It's no doubt a leadership issue. That's the biggest issue, I think, to starting a company is how you lead other people.
Mhm.
And if you're going to build a business, every business is a people business. And for the first 5 years, it was really a scattershot of poor leadership on my part. It's kind of a one-man salesperson. We hired people, it didn't work. It's pretty volatile, stressful. And then in 2011, I just woke up one day and I was in my 40s, and I'm like, we were pretty successful at that point after 5 years. And I realized it had to be about something bigger than me. And I was actually kind of sick to my stomach that it was all about me. And then I realized that I had to make it about other people getting what they want out of life. I literally put that on our website. Said our mission is to help other people get what they want out of life. And since that time period, the last 14 years, it's been quite the leadership journey, because we've gone from 2 employees to 80. And it's how you treat people is like the number one thing at a company, how the leader treats people, because everyone else then will treat people the way the leader treats people, right? And that's the behavior.
Right.
And you want to keep your best people, and you want to help people build amazing careers. And you definitely don't want to lose your best people. But if you use the wrong words or treat people in certain ways, good people leave. And a lot of times they leave because of the boss, not because of the company.
So you're helping mentor a lot of people. Did you have anyone mentor you along the way, or was it one of those things that unfortunately you learned through the school of hard knocks?
Definitely that, but I got ridiculously lucky. And when we started the company, a gentleman by the name of Alan Breed, Edgewood Management, our longest 19-year client, I met him in 2005. I told him we were starting this thing in 2006. And he goes, "Well, I have a mutual fund. That's what you do really well. Could I pay you to market that in addition to your real estate product?" Because we had a real estate product that we were launching as well. And I said, "Great." And there's no formal mentor-mentee relationship, but by far and away, he's the greatest leader I've ever seen, and smart. And I just feel so lucky that I met him. And I basically emulated our company after his. I mean, we never had one conversation about it. I just observed him, observed how he did things, observed how he made decisions, how he treated people, everything. So by far and away, Alan Breed, right? It's made my career. And so yes, he's not a formal mentor, but he is absolutely my number one mentor.
Right. So now how do you go about mentoring the people that work with you and clients?
So everyone at our company has a mentor-mentee relationship with someone.
Okay.
So that's first off. So everyone, all 80, have a mentor. Um, Second, the number one thing for any company is to establish what you stand for. This is my opinion, of course. You have to write down your core principles and for what you stand for, right? And it's certain standards of the way you're going to do business, how you're going to do things. There are certain words that you want to use, and then you want to talk about them all the time. Once you set down your core principles, it makes it very, very easy to make big decisions because all you have to do is point to the wall and your core principles are on the wall. And the core principles should absolutely be what you stand for in your own words and not somebody else's words. So, and then when you're talking about mentorship, then everyone at the company sees what good looks like and is told this is what good looks like. If you don't do that, I think you're a rudderless ship because you haven't set up your standards and what you stand for. And we've had a lot of fun with it because we call them Dakotisms. I think we have 12 of them, and they were all born out of just the experience of running the company and using. I also made something up because I heard a guy he got the quick no from a potential client, but they said, no, I'm not interested. And then he kept going after them to try to convince them. And I said, look, we grow apples, we sell them to apple buyers. We didn't try to convince orange buyers to buy apples. Just take the no and go find more apple buyers.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, because it is. I mean, in any business, any industry, you're not going to be the right fit for everybody. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, 100%.
What is in the investment industry, there's been a lot of changes over the years and adjustments and stuff like that. Where do you see some of the biggest changes and how were you able to help people with that?
Well, you've really seen a massive change, and you've probably seen it in your own personal portfolio. Whereas, 25 years ago, almost everybody was heavily invested in the stock market, the small cap stocks, mid cap stocks, large cap stocks, international, emerging markets, et cetera. And after the great financial crisis, there's been a massive shift to private investing.
Mhm.
So private companies, private real estate, private infrastructure, and that trend is only going to continue. More and more private equity firms will be formed. More and more private equity, investors will be created. All the big wealth platforms have made a massive move to private. So if you're looking at the investment business, it's really the future is going to be defined. There's fewer and fewer public companies, and you kind of follow the money. There's more money in private equity, if you will, from a fee perspective and potentially an opportunity perspective than there is in long only equity investing, kind of mutual funds and ETFs and stuff like that.
Now, how are you guys helping market them and helping them, do better and grow?
So what we do is our first business, it still exists today and it's going strong. We are an outsourced sales and marketing team for about 6 investment firms. So we do all the sales and marketing for them on an outsourced basis. So we're employees of Dakota, but then they hire us and it's almost like we slide right into their company and
Right.
perform all the sales and marketing functions.
Okay. Now, what
We help them
other
find new investors. That's the goal.
right? What other industries do you guys concentrate in besides the investment industry?
That's it. That's all we do
That's
is the
it.
investment industry. And then we have a database business that would be, if you're familiar with Zoom Info, we'd be a vertical version for investment management within like a database. So we provide an accurate and up-to-date database of both investors as well as allocators.
Now,
So
everybody,
investment firms, and then
go ahead.
no, you got it.
So, AI seems to be playing a big role in, all of our industries now and so forth. Where do you see that going, in your space?
No, I mean, it's going to dominate every industry. Right now, the ability to perform tasks like summarizations of PDFs and stuff like that. But then within our database, you're going to be able to prompt the database to do certain things. You're going to be able to pull information out of data. It's an insane technology, and you're going to have AI agents performing tasks, within your company. In fact, I was just listening to the CEO of NVIDIA, and to the point where you're literally going to have to hire a quote unquote head of HR to manage all of your agents, your AI agents.
Right.
That's where it's going. So yeah, it's definitely the most disruptive technology ever, and we all have to figure out how to leverage it, and it's going to benefit everyone. If you listen to CEO of NVIDIA, CEO, that's all he talks about. It's everyone wins with AI. It's not like people are going to lose jobs. Things are going to evolve, and the ability to harness AI and prompt it, it's going to be really critical.
I've had other guests on that are kind of in that AI space, and a lot of them are saying that jobs aren't going to be replaced; they're going to be enhanced by the AI, and that people really need to start embracing AI because it's here to stay.
Bingo. And look, you just got to be a kid. You know what I mean? You just got to just jump in and keep learning and learning. And there's so much information about software and AI and bots and agents and everything. You just have to be studying it every day. You have to become a student of AI. And that's what I try to do. I try to read everything I possibly can.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that. What other technologies do you see that are out there that small business owners really need to start keeping their eyes on?
Well, there's so many good tools, like, you're recording this call and then having this transcribed and summarized. Those types of tools are quite unbelievable. We use all sorts of technology for finding email addresses and keeping data up to date. I believe that the cornerstone of any business is their database or their CRM of customers. It's very difficult, to keep it up to date, I realize, but having a focus on that is absolutely critical. That's what we do for about 1,300 investment firms, is keep their data up to date.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What are some of the relationship building skills and things that you and your team use on a daily basis that other people that are in different industries can be and should be using?
So, I mean, obviously, link building standpoint is definitely one of the best. It's an amazing recruiting tool. When people type in the name of a company, and you can see who's open to work. So we use LinkedIn very, very actively. We're not big on Facebook. And then I think, as it relates to relationship building, I think any business should be in the content business. And I think when I look back on what's really propelled our company, is the commitment to creating 3 blogs a week, 3 videos a week, creating value-added content. It's absolutely vital, and that's how you build relationships, virtually, if you will. And you can't think about who's going to look at it. You just have to create it and try to create as much value as you can in each post. And then, you believe it or not, people will build a relationship with you through your content.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had someone on the other week, and they're a coach, and they talked about how many times people are getting in their own way because they're worried about what people are thinking about them and what they're doing, instead of just doing it. Like you're saying, it's like, hey, we're putting out, good content, we're doing it on a consistent basis and stuff like that. And you're not worried about, or at least the people who are doing it aren't necessarily worried about what is everybody else thinking about me.
What you just said is probably the most valuable thing that you could say on this podcast. And thank goodness, in some ways, that people think like that, right?
Right.
Because if everybody thought, like, one of our core principles is turn your brain off. Like, stop thinking, just do it. Right. I mean, but a lot of people, well, if I do that, all this other stuff, or they're going to watch it. Like you said, they get in their head. And it's like, no, stop. Just think about adding value. Create stuff. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. You're a plumber. You could come up with 3 blog posts a week, and they don't have to be long. Just think of something that would be useful to your potential, customer base, right? Whatever that might be. And, do it, or hire a, outsourced blog writer to do it for you. And you come up with the topics, you dictate it, into your phone and just send it to them, and then they edit it and post it.
Yeah,
It's all,
I think so many times, we try to make everything absolutely perfect, and people get paralyzed by it and overanalyze. And like you said, you got to shut that brain off sometimes and just do instead of overthinking it.
like, yeah, like I said, I think that's probably one of the greatest lessons in business is when you can get to that point. I always feel like, and I think Colin Powell said this too, I think it's 70%. Once you kind of have 70% of the information, you can, you don't need 100%. And listen, you have to, Jeff Bezos talks about, there's two decisions. There's a one-way decision, and then there's two-way. Two-way you can make because you can come back. One way, you got to be much more thoughtful. Those are big strategic decisions. But you also have to try stuff. You have to experiment. You have to be willing to fail. I mean, it's okay. Just don't, don't drive your car into a brick wall.
Right.
That would be really bad failure, right? But you got to try stuff and experiment, have fun. One of our core competencies, one of our core principles is have fun. You got to have fun at work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What advice would you have to give to a business owner that is kind of struggling to reach that next level? What piece of advice would you give them?
You mean where they just might be stuck at a certain point?
Yeah.
Wherever they are. One piece of advice is start with the end in mind. So figure out where you want to be, and then think through where you are today, and then just ask yourself this about 7 times. Why am I doing it this way? So you're stuck for a reason, right? And you have to ask yourself why. And once you get that answer, you have to ask yourself why. I think if you do that 7 times, you'll get to the answer. So it's either starting with the end in mind and then asking why. I think one of the most valuable things in life and in business is to ask yourself, why am I doing something? And it's funny when you do that and you start to get these answers, and then all of a sudden you keep asking why, and they're like, man, I was just doing that. I wasn't really giving it much thought. So ask why.
Yeah. Okay. If you had to go back to, right before you started Dakota, give yourself advice at that point, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, because I'm writing my 3rd book, and it's going to be called Be Kind, and it's an unconventional approach to leadership. Because you can have a heart charging culture and you can do it with kindness. And if I knew what I knew now, like from day one, I would have had a much different approach to leadership. And it's completely around kindness, building and developing people, realizing you can have an amazing company, super hard charging, excellence, huge focus on excellence, but you can treat people kindly, not nice, because then you might not have to, then you don't have difficult conversations. But if you're kind and you're careful with your words and very judicious with your words, you can do extraordinary things by helping other people get what they want. And the goal is really, how do people feel at work? And then when they come home from work, do they feel like they're become the best version of themselves? So it's really service to other people. I would have had that much more in the front of my mind from day one. And I wouldn't have wasted 5 to 7 years to kind of get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes, we do really need to kind of go back and reflect on that, because I know that I've had times, throughout my career that it's kind of like, oh, I'm not getting the results that I want type thing. But I think it's important that the people you work with are excited about coming into the office or wherever their job is to do their job, and they're excited to help the people that you're in business to help. I think people just look at it, it's kind of like, they're all going to the salt mill to grind salt. It's like, no, that's not what it is. And if that's what it is, you need to change your mindset to get you to the right place.
Couldn't agree more.
What have I not asked you that you wish I had, Gui?
Okay, just for fun, I did write a book, and the book is called The Dakota Way, and it's our 4 core fundraising sales principles. And it applies to most industries, but it's really focused on fundraising. Applies to software and other things. So yeah, I'm just having fun with you. It dropped on Feb 11, and it's been really well received. It was a fun book. to write. It's absolutely in my voice, and it's just a very hardcore approach to sales.
Now, the book that you just talked about, Kind, when's that going to come out?
That'll come out later this year. Be
Okay.
kind. Yep. And it's basically lessons learned as a leader. So it's just sharing the lessons that I've learned over time and what I've implemented in the past 5 to 7 years at Dakota. That's really changed the complete trajectory of the company. Just simply having a different way of treating people and speaking to them.
What, if people want to talk to you, reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing at Dakota, how can they reach you? Where can they find you?
So GuiCostin.com or Gui at Dakota.com.
And obviously you're on LinkedIn, since you guys use that a lot too.
Yes, 100%.
Definitely. So Gabe, really appreciate your time today. Enjoyed our talk. Looking forward to your book coming out and getting a copy and reading it.
Great. Gary, thanks so much for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Hey, this week my guest was Gui Costin, and he's the founder and CEO of Dakota. I'll see you guys next week.